up, party people, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are doing a good old-fashioned try-on haul. So yeah, I was on Facebook this morning, and in one of the beauty groups that I'm in, there was someone talking about this foundation from this new line, and then everyone in the comments was raving about it. So yeah, there's a new line at Dollar General called Belief Beauty, and everything is under $5. I did a little spontaneous trip to Dollar General, and I got a full face of makeup from that line. So I have not tried anything yet. We're gonna do a little first impression try on, and I'm gonna give you guys my thoughts and observations along the way, and I'm even gonna do a wear test. So it's gonna be a very long day. So before we get started, if you're new here, hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Ashley. I post videos twice a week. We talk about everything from makeup to skincare to hair care, all things beauty, all in one place. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to my channel and stick around, and also turn your bell on so that you never miss a beat. And while we're talking about it, while it's fresh on your mind, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you end up enjoying it, if you want to see more like it. I know you haven't watched it yet, but you're gonna enjoy it. And without further ado, let's get started. So I do have my receipt here, so I will be giving you guys the prices as we go. So the first thing I have is an eyeshadow palette. So this is $5. So this is in the shade Nearly Nude. And as you can see, it's just a really pretty, like, everyday neutral brown kind of palette, and it looks very expensive and high quality. It looks like there are 2 mattes and then 4 shimmers. Super buttery, really pigmented, but they don't seem overly pigmented. Like, they don't seem flaky or like there would be a lot of fallout or anything. And my eye is obviously drawn to this really pretty, like, silvery taupe. Ooh, that's really pretty. I'm really gonna have to refrain myself from putting this all over the lid because that's very typical Ashley. So I'm gonna try to keep it more like bronzy and whatnot. So I'm first going into this matte yellowish ivory shade and just set my primer down. So there's not really a good, like, matte transition shade in here aside from this dark brown, which I'm not putting in my crease. So I'm just gonna go into the bronzer in this cheek palette that I got. This is the Get Glowing Highlight and Contour palette in the shade Light Medium, and this was $5. I'm gonna start working this into the crease. Okay, so that shade worked out really well. It's really easy to work with. It's pigmented, but not overly pigmented to where if you apply too much, it's hard to go back. So now I'm gonna go back into the eyeshadow palette. I'm gonna take this matte dark brown now. I'm just gonna put that in my outer V. That is such an easy shade to work with. Like, this formula so far is killing it. So I've been trying to figure out which shimmer to put on my lid. So I think I'm gonna go in with this, like, neutral bronzy shade right here, and then maybe a little bit of this in the outer V. I'm just gonna start putting this all over the lid to meet up with that brown. So it definitely looks like more of a satin finish whenever you pack it on dry, but it's still very, very pretty. Let's see what it looks like with my finger. Okay, so that definitely does pack it on a little bit better, and that's really, really pretty. I feel like once I get everything done, it's gonna be a really pretty, like, smoky, bronzy, smoky eye. Just for funsies, let's just go ahead and wet the brush and see. Let's do it on this side. Let's see what kind of effect it gives and if it looks any better. I will say it's a very fine shimmer. Like, a lot of cheaper eyeshadows, they're very chunky, and, like, if they are a shimmer, they're very, like, glittery and just not very high quality looking, but these look very, very high quality. Wow, I'm super impressed with that. I'm gonna go into this darker taupey shade right there. I'm gonna put it in the outer V and just kind of top off that dark, like, reddish brown in the outer V that we have. So that did add a little bit of depth and make it a little bit more smoky and sultry, but I actually just liked the reddish brown by itself. Now I'm gonna go into my brow bone highlight and just kind of touch that up a little bit just to make it look a little bit more clean. So I'm gonna take that matte ivory shade again and just do what I do. I'm actually really surprised at how well put together and cohesive this palette is. Like, I love the selection of finishes and just the tones and how everything pairs really well together. I would like to see another transition shade, like a matte transition shade. And I'm gonna go into my inner corner highlight now. I'm gonna take this beautiful silvery taupey shade right there. It kind of has like a pinky aspect to it. Actually, I'm gonna wet that just to make sure it blends well into that bronze. I'm just gonna brighten up the inner V. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be, like, drowning this all over my eyelid soon. So now moving on to eyeliner. So I did get just a basic black eyeliner. So this is the Long Lasting eyeliner in the shade Caviar. So it's just a black. So this one was $3.50, so super cheap. It's just a retractable eyeliner. So I'm just gonna do my thing, and hopefully it's super jet black and super matte. What? That liner went on so nice, and that's probably one of the most jet black stick liners that I've tried in a really long time. And I try a lot of black liners, and I'm on the hunt for something that's super pigmented and jet black and creamy and smooth, but actually lasts and doesn't transfer onto my eyelids whenever I actually have my eyes open. So now I'm gonna curl my lashes. I'm gonna go into mascara now, and I was just looking at my receipt, and it looks like the lady didn't ring up my mascara, but I looked online and it's $4.50, and you can actually buy all this stuff online as well, so I will have all this stuff linked. So this is the Volumin'eyes mascara. I feel like that's a very common name. It's supposed to give you thickness, volume, curl. So yeah, they had several to choose from. Now these do look pretty cheap. I feel like everything else like has really nice packaging, and then these look a little more on the cheaper side, but that doesn't really bother me. So let's see what the wand looks like. I got the shade Intense Black, but it's a nice, almost like a, yeah, it's a very like toned down hourglass kind of shape, and it looks kind of spiky. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply a couple of layers of this, and let's see what we can do. Okay, that is not bad at all. I did not expect that much from this little mascara. It definitely is more of a volumizing formula. That's what it claims to do. It doesn't really claim to be a super lengthening formula. So it definitely does better at volumizing and thickening and giving you more of that fullness, but it finds every lash, it doesn't clump, it separates, and it builds up really nicely. It definitely is more of a dry formula, but it's not too dry. Like, there is some wetness to it, so it does layer really well. And this is also a really jet black formula. Like, it's called Intense Black, and it definitely is Intense Black. It's just very rich. So now moving on to the face. So I have a foundation, and this is the one that the person in the beauty group that I'm in was talking about. So this is the Skin Finish foundation. It's supposed to be a medium to full coverage, and this one was $5. It looks really expensive. It's got like this really nice gold pump. Okay, you know what? This just goes to show you that all these brands out here, they're still doing like the little pour jar with no pump. Like Estee Lauder even does that. NARS does that. Like they're expensive brands that are still doing the little pour jar and not giving you a pump. A $5 foundation, like a brand at Dollar General, is doing it right. So I got the shade Soft Beige, which looks like it would be a pretty good match for me. It looks like a neutral, almost golden, olivey kind of undertone, which is what I consider myself to be. There were not a lot of shades to choose from. They didn't go super light or super dark, so that is a bummer. But not only that, I also got this sponge. So this one was $4, so it's even cheaper than the Real Techniques one. So it says a 4-sided makeup sponge designed without latex. So yeah, it has these little flat sides, which I love flat-sided sponges because I feel like they really do a good job at coverage. And they have like a little flat top and then the round butt on the bottom. But it's actually kind of flat a little bit. So I'm gonna go wet this. So this got a lot bigger, and it still feels very squishy and soft. So it definitely is more of a thick consistency, but I mean, there is some drip to it. Yeah, let's just see how this wears without primer. So I'm gonna go in with the flat side. Let's start down here where I have more to cover up. I have oily skin. Okay, so I will say this sponge does soak up a lot of product. Most sponges will, but this took that entire pump that I pumped out just for one side of my face. Maybe I should like dot it on my face first and just kind of get it laid down and let it start warming up. Okay, so here's what one layer looks like. I think I'm actually gonna let it sit here for a little bit and dry and then go in with a second layer. Sometimes more wet formulas like this, they tend to do better layering whenever you let them dry. So it did cover up most of what I had. I mean, I wouldn't call it full coverage, but I would definitely call it medium coverage, and it seems to be very buildable. I've sat here for a few minutes and let it dry just to kind of see what the finish would be like on its own, and it definitely does have a very natural finish. Like, it's not what I would consider to be matte, it's not dewy, like it's just that perfect, like natural skin finish. So I am gonna go in now and just kind of spot conceal. I don't use concealer to cover up blemishes. I try to let my foundation do the job. I always like to test foundation's ability to layer, if they get cakey, if they get thick looking. Okay, so there's what 2 layers looks like. It didn't really do a whole lot more. I mean, it definitely did add some coverage, but still a very, very pretty formula, and it covered up what I needed it to. So I got this concealer. This is just the You're Covered liquid concealer. I got the shade Fair, and this was $4. Let's just go ahead and go in. They didn't really have a big shade selection in this either. It definitely is more of my skin tone. It's not gonna give me a lot of brightness. Okay, so blend it out really fast. I don't know if that's because of the formula or the sponge where it's so big it just covers a wide area at once, but it doesn't really look like I did a whole lot. Like it looks pretty much like the foundation. I don't really feel like it added a whole lot of coverage. So let's see if we can build this up. Okay, so there's 2 layers of that. I'm not really seeing a big difference. I don't know if it's the foundation or the concealer, but I do have pretty good coverage under there. I would say this concealer is more of like a low medium coverage. It does seem to be buildable. It doesn't look dry or thick or heavy under my eyes. So I don't have a powder from them. They did have a translucent powder and then a medium deep powder. They were out of the translucent powder, so I'm just going to use what I have. Okay, so I didn't set the perimeter of my face. I just set my under eye area and a little bit of my T-zone. I'm going to go back into that Get Glowing Highlight and Contour palette for my bronzer. So I'm going to take this shade right here, and I'm going to start by stamping it because I'm not using like setting powder up there, so I'm gonna let this be my setting powder for this area. It's not like a flat matte, like it's not a straight up matte finish. It definitely has a little bit of a satin finish to it, which I think looks really pretty and natural. That is very, very pretty. That is a beautiful finish, and it blended out so well. Again, it's not overly pigmented to where you have to be scared of how much you pick up on your brush. It blends out so nicely. It's so soft. What is this? Oh my God. So I do have a couple of different blush tones to choose from. I actually got one of their blushes, and then there's a blush in this palette. This one is the Born To blush in the shade Wink, and this one was $4.75. I just kind of want to get something a little bit different because like this kind of tone is very, very not me. It's a very cool tone, kind of like Barbie doll pink, so hopefully it doesn't translate to be that on the skin. Hopefully it translates to be like a really pretty flush. Okay, yeah, that's really, really pretty. Like it just looks very, I don't know, like you've been out in the sun, like just very sun-kissed. Like you've got a little bit of flush to your skin because you're hot. It's got like this beautiful like satiny finish. So now let's go into this peachy shade. Okay, that one's really pretty too. I don't really know which one I'm liking better. Actually, I kind of do like this Wink blush better, but very, very pretty shade. It's very natural. It's not overly peachy. So now I'm gonna go into this highlighter right here. This looks like a really pretty, like almost like champagne pop kind of tone, and it doesn't look too shimmery. It looks like something that would be really like wet and just definitely not a super frosty shimmery highlighter. Like it's definitely one of those that makes your skin look wet and just dewy. Who is she? Okay, moving on to brows because I've been browless for way too long. So this is the Brow Defying Pencil in the shade Light Brown, and this one was $4. They didn't really have a lot of shades to choose from. They had blonde, ash brown, light brown, and then a darker shade. So I think this is the kind that you sharpen. It doesn't seem like it's one of the twist up ones, but it looks like a retractable pencil with how sharp it is, but you do get a spoolie on the other side. So this is the product I'm not feeling super hopeful about just because of the color. Okay, you know what? It's a little dark, but that's not that bad. This probably won't be everyone's cup of tea because it's not the typical like brow wiz. It's very creamy, but it's also pretty waxy. It almost reminds me of a pomade, like a gel pomade in a stick form. It's extremely pigmented and you can go ham if you apply too much. Okay, so I have just a couple more products. I have a lipstick and a setting spray. This is called the Satin Crush Lipstick in the shade Moroccan Spice. This is the lightest. So here's what it looks like. So it definitely is like a warm mauvey nude. I forgot to mention this is $3.50. It actually acts like it was on sale, like that was the sale price, but I'm not really sure. I'm sure it's around $4. Definitely doesn't have any shimmer or anything. It's not matte. I don't know how well it will hold up. It probably won't be the longest wearing, but I mean, I'm not expecting it to be. So last, I had this Makeup Perfecting setting spray. This was $4.50. So I think this is the only setting spray they had. Let's see what kind of sprayer it is. That's fine. Oh my God. I mean, that mist is so nice. It's such like, that's what we're going for. Like, it's the goal of setting sprays. Like it's so fine and even, but it's definitely giving my skin more of that like unified, healthy, like radiant kind of look, but not oily looking. So yeah, it is now 1:46. We're gonna say 1:45 for our check-in time. I got done with the foundation around 1 o'clock though, so I'll keep that in mind for later on. I'm feeling very optimistic, so I will see you guys at the end of the night for our final check-in. So yeah, it is now 12:20 at midnight. So here's what my face looks like after almost 12 hours of wear. I haven't done anything. What you see is what you get. I went outside today. It was like 95 degrees. It was so hot. I was sweating. I had sunglasses on. I didn't come back in and touch up or anything. Whenever I got in, I just kind of pat my nose a little bit, but I wasn't even really concerned about looking in the mirror and trying to get the glass marks off. So even the fact that like I had glasses on and there's not a big ring around here of like product lift off and product transfer, that's crazy. I don't even have a primer on. And yes, I'm obviously greasy and kind of oily, but it's it's a very even finish. It just makes me look like I'm wearing a dewy foundation. This is a beautiful foundation. It has a beautiful finish. It wears very evenly. I think this would be a really pretty foundation to mix in with other foundations, maybe ones that are more full coverage, or you know, if you want like a little bit more of a matte finish, just mix it in with more of a matte foundation and kind of get that perfect in-between finish. This little eyeshadow palette has impressed me so much. I would trust this enough to take this to travel with alone. Like I would obviously need like a transition shade, so I would probably take the bronzer with me as well, but this has such a pretty color selection. I definitely want to try more of them. Everything wore really, really well. It looks very expensive and very high quality on the lids. It didn't fade off like a cheap eyeshadow usually does. That is an A+. Long-lasting eyeliner in the shade Caviar. I am so impressed with this. This didn't transfer, it didn't smudge. I mean, I do have a little bit of transfer right here. Like it kind of looks like eyeliner sweat, like in the little outer corners of my outer tear duct in a way. That's normal. I get that with literally everything, even if I don't have eyeliner on. It was creamy. It stayed put all day long. I'm excited to see how this holds up in my waterlines. The mascara. I like the mascara. It's definitely not my favorite, but I would like to see how this works with my L'Oreal Volumin'eyes Lash Primer. That's something I've been putting on almost every single day underneath every mascara, because this is a pretty decent mascara on its own. It didn't flake. It didn't smudge. I mean, there are a couple of flakes because I was laying on my face and I was sleeping and whatnot, so I do have to take that into account. But with all things said and done, it looks pretty good and it held up really, really well. This little Get Glowing Highlighting Contour palette is so impressive. One of the prettiest bronzers I've used in a very, very long time. Really like the blush. The highlighter was beautiful as well. Everything is so smooth and richly pigmented and just very finely milled and silky, and it just blends out so nicely onto the skin. The blush in the shade Wink really impressed me. This is a beautiful blush, beautiful formula. I'm excited to see some other shades, but I love this one. And it's just such a pretty, like, natural satin finish. The concealer, I definitely want to see how this pairs with other foundations and maybe even mixing it in with a lighter concealer to, you know, just kind of brighten it up a little bit. But it didn't crease, and it still looks very smooth and milky under the eyes. Like most concealers crease on me, and this didn't do that whatsoever. And even like right after I got done running, like right after I got inside and I was like patting away the sunglass marks on my nose, I noticed that it was very smooth and it was creaseless and it wasn't fading or anything. Brow pencil definitely wasn't bad. It was definitely a different kind of formula for me. It was extremely creamy and very, very pigmented. You have to be really careful with not going overboard, especially if you have lighter eyebrows, but it held up really well, so I would definitely try this again. The sponge, I really like the sponge. It did soak up a lot of product, we've already established that, but again, applied everything really nicely. It blended everything out really just quick, and it was easy, and it's just nice and soft and squishy, and for $4, it's convenient, it's accessible. And then the lipstick, I'm not like a huge fan of the lipstick. It's not bad. It definitely isn't transfer resistant. It isn't the longest wearing. It doesn't claim to be. It's just a lipstick. It's not a liquid lipstick or anything. I like it. I would check out more shades in it. It's just, it's not my absolute favorite. And last but not least, the setting spray. I really like the setting spray. I've talked about the nozzle and the mister on it. It just really unified everything in a really pretty way. So yeah, this has been a very successful video. I haven't been this excited about my makeup and have had this much success with a full face in a really long time. And if you've tried anything from this brand, make sure you leave your review in the comments below. Let me know what else I need to check out, because I'm definitely going back. I am so excited. So thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you guys in my next one. Mwah.